Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds podcast. I am your host tonight, Topher Sheeler. I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Rob Adams.
What up, what up?
Well, this is part two here this evening. We are here with Who Lives, John and Nicci Renouard. This is part two. Rob, why don't you give us a plan of what we're talking about tonight?
Well, I've learned that Who Lives, actually Who is an acronym for three parts of their mission. Who, the W stands for water, H stands for health, and O stands for opportunity. We're going to do the O this time. We're skipping the H. We're going to come back to that on the next podcast. But today we're going to talk about the opportunities that are created in such a way to solve problems rather than create problems. It's a wonderful story. Stay tuned.
This is going to be really awesome, guys. Let's get a quick word from the sponsor real fast, and we'll jump right in.
Welcome to the American Masterminds podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Logic.
What if the water your kids drink every day wasn't as clean as you think? Invisible contaminants, lead, arsenic, PFAS can slip through ordinary filters. With Blue Logic's whole home purification, you remove up to 99.8% of what shouldn't be there. Give your family water that's as pure as your love for them. Call now or visit BlueLogicWater.com to schedule your free in-home water test. Because what touches your family every day should never be left to chance. Blue Logic Water, pure protection for the ones you love most.
When we talk about the mission and the pillars of Who Lives, and I learn more, and this is unfolding before me as I become more understanding of what your organization's about, the water part that we discussed in our first episode is really kind of it's the doorstep, the entry point into your awareness of what was happening in different parts of the world, specifically in Africa. When I've talked to you before, one of the things that always impresses me is your then what thinking. I really admire that about you, by the way. Your then what thinking. Okay, we've solved this problem. Then what? Now what is the next logical step? And I watched a video at your last gala where it talked about a young man who you helped. I think it was it chickens that you helped him with in the first place, or was it a kitchen that you helped him start?
Yeah, I think he started with,
was he a beekeeper?
The bees. It was the bees. That's what it was. But he started with this piece. Can we talk about, what was his name?
Oh, I don't.
Do you remember?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The video was so good, but let's just kind of jump in right there, because what I like about this is the natural progression of we've solved a problem. Now this is the next step in solving the next problem, right?
Yeah.
So can we go there?
I mean, a lot of people know us because of water, and of course, water is the baseline of everything, really. And so, opportunity, our third pillar, is really without it, the water is okay, but it doesn't live up to its potential, if you can think of it that way. And especially when people do water wrong, it could actually have a negative effect. We've talked about before that a village will get clean water. 2 years later, their well will break for whatever reason, and they go back to the ponds and to these stinky rivers and catchment systems and bring it back home. Well, over those 2 years, there's been 100, 200 kids that were born, all drinking this clean water. And now you introduce these microbes to these children, and the mortality rate, we've seen it up to 80%.
No way.
And they have no idea what's going on. They think it's cholera, but it's not cholera. There's not a flowing river going by. And it was amazing that we were able to kind of go back and find out, yeah, they had a well for a while. That well, for whatever reason, broke. They went back to the rivers, and now, 5 years down the road, there's no second grade. There's 13 kids in second grade, and yet there's 50 in third grade and 45 in fifth grade. And it took me a while to figure out why was that, because I saw it happening, and I figured there had to be a reason. That's what we figured out. And so water is the baseline. But if you don't do water right and make sure that they that they fix it when it breaks and then use it. Here's another ism that we came up with. A well that's making money, the day it breaks is the day it gets fixed.
Mm.
Now, that's contra to a lot of people's philosophy. It's like, well, we're going to give them the well, and remember, we're going to tell them you can't charge for it. It has to be free. Everybody's got to get it for free. And that sounds very noble. But what it does, number one, it creates dependency. And number two, no one's going to fix it when it goes bad. But if somebody's making money.
But wait, we're going to put a plaque on it that says donated by or sponsored by as well.
Which is,
yeah,
again, just
to show the village that they can't do it themselves, but we had to do it for you. So we're going to put a big plaque on it and have a big ceremony.
It's interesting that the Western type thinking because that makes sense. It makes sense to me. Why, sure, that's how we would do it. But Western thinking is not solving this localized thinking problem. It's not about the water. It's about a thinking problem is what you're saying.
We do not allow our name to go on a plaque or on a well or on a tank. We don't allow it because in every case, they have contributed either the whole amount or a big portion of it, depending on their circumstances. It's theirs, and we want it to be theirs. And again, it reminds them that they did it. And that is key for what we're doing. But going into the opportunity, now that you have clean water, again, you have the opportunity for the girls to go to school, but you really have opportunities for businesses to excel. Nicci mentioned this a little bit on our first podcast, and that was just adding a little bit of water to a crop. You can increase production by like 50%, especially like with tomatoes and lettuce. Just a small 10, 20, 30% more water than rainwater, and you can double your crop. Chickens that drink clean water will lay 6 to 7 eggs a week. Chickens that drink dirty, nasty water will only lay 2 or 3. And goats can have an extra gestation period when they're healthy and drinking clean water. So it's amazing. Just clean water can increase
abundance,
your abundance
everywhere.
And then take that to its next level. And we talk about now that people have time because they're not fetching water all day to actually become, economically viable. If a woman literally is fetching water every single day, what's her economic viability? It's
her full-time job is water.
Her full-time job.
So she's spending 3 hours a day.
Women spend 6 hours.
Packing water back and forth.
6+.
Oh my God.
Yeah, many cases.
And how many tanks? How many jerry cans would typically one person carry?
Typically one 42 pound 5-gallon bucket of water. And but we have seen cases now. I don't think they're going 3 hours with one in each hand and one on the head, but we've seen them on short distances.
So Rob, I walked with an 80-year-old professional water carrier. So she makes the trip to the water source 6 to 8 times every day and brings water back for those who are not working, who are not in the community, that are working outside the community. So I walked with her and it was so hard. I can't even carry it myself. I have to have an empty jerry can to carry back. It's slippery slopes, up, down, all kinds of conditions. And this lady, it was the most cheerful, happy 80-year-old lady. That's what she does.
Carries
for an income, just walks back and forth
42 pounds
6 to 8 times every day to bring water for people that employ her.
Man, just those numbers alone makes me tired just talking about it.
And so
she should be in her retirement. She should be resting.
So Nicci was embarrassed by an 80-year-old. I was embarrassed by a 13-year-old who probably weighed 80 pounds, carrying a 40-pound bucket on her head and just walked circles around me. And that just kind of brings back to one thing that we teach is really the strength of the human spirit. I can ask 100 women, in my community where I live, do you think you can walk from our house to, we have it's called the Jordan River. That's about 3 miles away. Can you imagine walking there and back every single day, 2 or 3 times a day to bring water to your children? Because that's it. That's all the water we have. And all of them would say that we just could not physically do it. Nor if we had to do it, we would either, I don't know, we'd give up on life. But the reality is you wouldn't. You would find a way to survive. And that's what these people have taught us over the years, is that the power of the human spirit is so much stronger than we ever give it credit for. We go crazy when the battery runs out on our phone. And yet these people are so resilient, and we all could be that resilient when we want to be.
When we'd have to
when
be.
we have to be. And so the human spirit is so strong. And that's why they can do this all day and not be mean and nasty and why me attitude. But it's, I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy for my grandkids. I'm happy for all the things that the Lord has blessed me with. And they're not always material things, but they are, again, they're for the most part, they're just a joyful people that aren't in the same circumstances that we're in. So going from there, how do you make that life better? And that's kind of what we don't want to change who they are, but if we can have a hand in creating something that's better, that they want, that they accept, then we're all for that. And that's where our focus on business and growth and opportunity has really turned heads. Because again, we've studied this thing out for 15 years, and we studied out why is it not working every place else? And we can give you example after example after example of businesses who have given out business loans and had zero returns. Matter of fact, the average return on a loan that's written by well-meaning NGOs, other nonprofits, is zero. These loans just don't get paid back, and the businesses are non-existent within, if they ever even started, within months or a couple of years. We wanted to change that, and so we focused in on what do they need and how can we make this thing happen, and that has changed everything. And the numbers that we're creating now, they seem unbelievable because no one else is reaching these numbers, but yet at the same time, we're doing it very, very different, keeping in mind how do we make them not only feel successful, but actually be successful and reward the hard work, reward the innovation, reward all the things that they're doing to become successful. And so if we want to talk about some of those projects, I'll just give you the tip of the iceberg, and then let Nicci kick in with some of the other opportunities. But last year, 2025, we started 71 new businesses, either started brand new businesses or expanded existing businesses. And there are 71. Of the 71 businesses that we've started, and the average loan, I think, is around 2,000, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 USD that we would loan out. And the payback on that, if you exclude one lady who went to the hospital for about a month and a half, was 100%.
Wow.
Whoa.
So
we thought if we got 50, we would be
gangbusters.
right. Yeah, 75, not a chance. We're at 100, and we're going to tell you a little bit how we got there. But it makes sense when you look at it holistically. When you look at it holistically, it's like, wow, how come everybody's not doing that? But if you put the time into finding out what works and why other things aren't working, you can change the world. And I think in this little small arena, we've done that, and we continue to grow. So, anyways, 71 businesses, virtually 100% payback. In full transparency, we had some we have like 3 that were paying, let's say half or 2/3 of their payment for a couple of months. So they're behind some, but they're making payments every single month. But there's probably, of the 71, I think there were 7 businesses that were behind a partial payment. But still,
but
we'll
not
take
entirely
that.
delinquent.
But not delinquent. Yeah, not delinquent. Not 60 days out.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so many questions. How do we
Sure.
choose a business?
So it's a whole process. So people came together and made a board, a governing board, and formed a savings and loan cooperative. So like our credit unions, it's called a SACO. So Savings and Loan Cooperative. And they, through some guidance from us, developed a week-long program where individuals could come and participate and learn business practices. And then it culminates in writing a business plan. So either to start a new business or to expand an existing business.
So do you have a SACO in Tanzania and a SACO in
So right now we
Kenya
have
and-
one in Kenya and a second one opened, and we're ready to expand to a third one already
Oh,
because
excited
it's
for it.
so successful.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and just to build on what she's saying, one of the first keys is exactly that. It's not Who Lives that are giving out these loans.
It's other Tanzanians
other,
Well, yeah.
or
other Kenyans.
other Kenyans.
Yes. They're formed a governing board so they have like a president, vice president, those
Just
that
like a credit
oversees
union.
it. Yeah. It's Kenyans helping Kenyans, but the money is coming from Who Lives, but they don't know that.
But we're donors. So just like a credit union, if you put $10,000 into the credit union can now loan that out to somebody who wants to buy a car.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So we are a donor in the credit union, in
We
the
are.
SACO.
Yes.
So we put our money into the SACO, and just like any other creditor, just any other borrower, we put our money in there, and now the SACO, the credit union, can now loan that money out. Now, do the people getting the loan, do they know where it's coming from? Of course not. When I bought my car for the credit union, I didn't know that was Steve
Schmuckatellas,
Rogers.
yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm taking money out of his savings or whatever. No, and so that is a huge piece of the puzzle. Is that it's them, as Nicci says. You guys said it's now it's a bank, and this is it is a bank, and the banking rules in these countries are very, very strict.
Mhm.
And so we just become a depositor, and then the SACO loans that out.
So our operations director, Mike Anderson, reviews each person's business plan along with the president of the SACO. So they'll review everything and see how well it's written, what the risks might be and whatnot. And then they determine how much they want to loan them. And based on that, so out of, I'm not sure, 15, 20 people in the program, they might give out 8 to 10 loans for that after that series is over. And then it's such a genius idea, and it's just working so well because they've developed a business or expanding a business. They're provided with a mentor, someone who's already been successful in their particular business. So a great example is like beekeeping. Someone who just wants to start is paired with a mentor who's been doing it for 15 years or so, very, very successful at it. And that mentor is actually getting paid to be a mentor, and part of that pay is to making sure this new business owner is repaying their loan. Yeah, so that's how come it works, because the mentors are getting paid to be a mentor, and they're checking in every 3 to 4 weeks with their mentee and providing valuable assistance and guidance and making sure the loans are getting repaid as well.
So as part of the loan, the cost of the mentee?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, very small. So the mentee is being paid primarily through donations. So the donations that we bring in, 90% of that is going to go towards doing new loans. 10% is going to go towards paying the mentors. Now, people might say, well, the mentors, they already have an established business. They don't need the money. That's correct. But we need them. We need their mentorship, because we could teach it. But, I'm some white guy from Utah. What do I know about the
Beekeeping
realities
in
of
Kenya.
Yeah.
Kenya?
And most of the mentors do not live in their community,
Right.
in their village.
So
They're
they're not
coming
competing
from
against each
out,
other.
from outside. So they have travel costs, they have time costs, things like that. We want to make it successful for everyone involved.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And that way, it's the mind is a powerful thing. And I think most entrepreneurs, especially the ones that I know, and myself included, we had people that we looked up to. I had some neighbors in California that were entrepreneurs, Hal Jensen and Wayne Riley. Hope you're doing well. And I saw what they were doing as entrepreneurs. And I said, well, geez, if they can do it, I can do it. No offense, guys. but having that power of seeing somebody do it and knowing that it can be done is really powerful. So introducing successful people, and that's just not natural, or it's not common in a lot of these relationships in these developing countries. They have a tendency to really hold on to.
So you're shifting them to an abundance mindset.
Yes. Yes.
That's crazy. What was your question?
Well, my question, I just wanted to circle back. Mike, we didn't properly introduce him, and he deserves a proper introduction. And because if I'm understanding the story correct, he was kind of instrumental in putting a lot of these programs together. So I'd like to introduce him.
Yeah. So Mike is one of these godsends. I put an ad out, and the ad was for somebody. The title was "Just Get It Done," and I was hiring somebody and so he answered that
Director
ad.
of Get Her Done.
Director of Get It Done. Yeah, Director of Get It Done. And he answered that ad. Now he had seen, the Village Drill is still one of the top 10 achievements of all time at Brigham Young University. So along with their national championship and other incredible things that they've done, one of the top 10 all-time things that BYU has accomplished is the engineering of my idea of the Village Drill. So Mike, we had the ideas, but we needed an implementer. And Mike has been with us for 6 years. And it might be my name on the door, but Mike runs this stuff, man. I tell you. And he's just a quality person. He's owned his own businesses since he was in his late teens. And again, to say that he's the salt of the earth would be an understatement. And again, we collaborate very, very well. I'm the very good-looking one, and he's the really smart one.
I love your humility.
Mike.
Mike's rolling his eyes right now.
What are you doing?
and always be humble by Mike, because he's probably a 4 to 5 handicap, and we have the same score, but mine's after 9. And but he's just. But he knows, and he works tirelessly. He's on the phone at 6 a.m. And
Mike cannot
1 a.m.
miss a phone call or an email. He will not even take a day off on vacation. He has to answer a phone. He came from the funeral industry, so that's vital, and it's ingrained in him. But you can bet that if he's on vacation, he's still answering the phone or answering an email every time.
But we collaborate on almost everything, and it's really, Mike, this is what I like to do. These are the thoughts. This is the why, and then he just makes.
And he doesn't let it go. Every single week, he is on the phone with the teams every single week,
and he's repeating himself. I'm thinking, I just would not have the patience, and he
makes everything work, and he makes us accountable. He's the one that has the Village Drill teams pass out a survey every 6 months. So we track, the rate of health improvement. We track the rate of kids in school. We track the opportunities or the jobs that were provided because of the water. So he is very much a cross your T, dot your I type of person. And we are so grateful for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, he takes my ideas and just makes them better. And he comes up with his own. I'm not saying it's just one-sided.
So the business mentorship program.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And again, I've had the business mentorship program for 10 years prior to Mike coming, and had several businesses that were okay. And then the first year Mike's doing this, he I did 7 over 10 years. He had 71 in 12 months. And we already have, I think, another 12 in the online for the first quarter of 2026.
And the wonderful thing about this is that part of Who Lives mission is that we take people to Africa with us. We call them impact missions. So we go 3 times a year. We invite everyone to come with us, come see something that you would never see with any other travel group, or you would never have an experience like we can show you. And so we go and see these new businesses. And I missed this trip, but there were girls in our group that had their hair done by a new beauty salon that opened under the SACO program. And I have personally bought the honey, tasted the honey, from a bee vendor. I've seen chickens that this elderly couple is growing and then walked a very steep, slippery hill down to their tilapia farm that they're growing on their property under nets so that the birds don't catch them. And I can't believe how agile you guys. I'm huffing and puffing, but here we are. And we do this with our groups. So we've gone to the pharmacy and I've purchased drugs for very inexpensive that I would need.
Amoxicillin, not.
Okay,
yeah,
that I would need a prescription for.
That's a whole new enterprise that you're bringing over there.
Makes a left turn.
Yeah, anything to raise a little dollar, right?
Yes. So we see them in person. It's not just pictures coming through. And we're working now to get actual videos and actual stories because we have the pictures and the faces and the write-ups, but we're working on videos now to make it even that more compelling. Yeah, exactly, Rob.
That's beautiful.
You talk about the ripple effect, right? You throw in a little pebble and the ripples that it makes. We talked about a gentleman who started in beekeeping, and from the funds that he earned from beekeeping, he started a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And from the restaurant, he had to hire people. And one of the people he hired was her story just by itself. Had we just done this one thing, we would have been just beyond ourselves. The situation was this lady was trafficked. She was told that she was going to go into the city and be a housemaid for a politician. Blah blah blah. She gets into the main city, and they start trafficking her. And she has no way out. She has no money for transportation. She has nobody to call. She has no way to get out of this life. Until one day she just puts her life in her hands and she escapes. Now she escapes, comes back home, and a lot of times you would think that the community would really rally around and, oh my gosh, thank heavens you're back. A lot of times they get a stigma. Well, you trafficked. It's you're
dirty.
You're dirty, yeah. And this business owner met this gal and said, I'm looking for a cook. Do you know how to cook? And again, she's still broken. She's still shy. But she says, well, I know my grandma's recipe for chapate. And she said, well, let's see let's start there. And anyways, she started cooking, and she wasn't wrong. Her chapate was as good as anybody had ever.
One of our Spanish Impact Mission members said, better than my hometown in Mexico.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And so
a chapati is like a tortilla. That's incredible.
And so now we have this individual who has come through our system, has become successful, and now is hiring people that need a second chance as well. And again, the changes happen within that community and within the personal lives is just amazing. And now times that by 71 other stories that are out there just in 2025, and the probably 100, 120 stories that we'll do in 2026. And that's something to take home. That's something to be very, very proud of. How amazing these people are when given the right chance. And again, it's all about not giving it away, right? It's all about doing it the right way. We learned long ago about the ills of just giving things away. Nicci has an acronym for it. What was it?
It's GETTY. So the first time you bring somebody something nice when you're visiting them,
a gift.
You give them a gift, right? You're grateful for it, right? That's the G. You have gratitude. Thank you. The next time you're coming to visit them, they'll probably have an expectation that it'll bring them something, right? That's the E. The third time, that's the D. Then they depend on it. Well, they're coming over. They brought me things twice. I'm expecting them to bring something for me. The fourth time, you guys, the final E, right? Entitlement. why didn't you bring me something? And they're angry, actually.
If you ever break that
If you break that
off.
Yeah.
And that is universal. That is
is
universal in America. That's universal with our kids, and it's universal in these developing communities where we try to do good, and it just backfires.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go over story where we know of groups that have been in communities for 4 or 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and then for whatever reason things had to change or they had to pull back. And the people just turn on them, and and they had to pull out completely. That rationale of creating entitlement is, has almost become the reason that progression has stopped in a lot of these communities.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
it really is. That's I think about the signs in the national parks to not feed the bears.
Yeah.
And it's because of Getty. It's because of that very thing. And we're creating entitlement with these bears, and then they become violent, and ends their life ultimately. And I see that in this example. I can see this happening always. How do you then you're avoiding that because you're creating ownership. You're not creating entitlement. Like, this is. We're going to teach you how to be an entrepreneur with honey, and now you can be because those rules are they're right everywhere, right?
Right, because they're borrowing from a bank. That's their bank. They are getting the funds, and it's a community bank. So if they don't pay back, they're hurting the community. Now, the other thing that we do is we've taken what happens when somebody doesn't pay back? What do we do, right? And we have collateral. And we always have co-signers in most cases. And so we can really go after these people when they don't pay. But we don't. We had a person that was late on some payments. They were making partial payments. And instead of saying, hey, if you don't pay up, we're going to take your collateral, we said, hey, we noticed. Now, when I say we, I'm referring 100% to the SACO, the people on the ground. The people that look like them and sound like them and are their neighbors. And they go to them and say, hey, we noticed that you're behind a little bit. What can we do? Yeah, what can we do to help you out? And, what's going on in your life that we need to, that we can help. And through that conversation, we've helped several businesses come over whatever it was that was hurting them. I'll just give you one example. It was a gal who would sell vegetables. So she bought vegetables fresh, and she would blanch them, put them in plastic bags, and then go deliver them to the community. Problem was that gas was going up, and the cost of plastic bags were going up, and the cost of vegetables were going up. But in her community, if she were to raise her prices, they wouldn't buy from her anymore. They would rather go pay. Her prices were 400 shillings. If she were to raise it to 450, 500, they would drop her and go buy it from somebody else, even if it cost them more, because it was the principle of, why are you raising your prices? You're just trying to cheat me. It's kind of this mentality. And so she was really stuck. She couldn't raise her prices. And so she brought the idea to the community, and then somebody in the community made the mention, well, can you charge a delivery fee? And everybody was silent for a minute, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I can charge a delivery fee. And so she went from 400 to 450 shillings delivered. Now, if you still wanted to pay 400 shillings, just come and pick it up.
Right.
Nobody had a problem, and that was enough revenue to bring her over the edge, and she's current on her payments. That's just one out of, probably at least a dozen like stories where
she would have gone out of business otherwise if she didn't have the support of local other businesses saying, well, what about this? How about we try that?
Yeah, she would have. Yeah, it would have failed. It would just been another failure, and whoever loaned the money. Well, we tried,
Yeah.
But so it's really.
Wish that we could bring that here.
It's the delivery of what we do is as important as what we do. The delivery, and sometimes we forget that in the face of showing our name everywhere and having that
ego.
That ego. Thank you. If you can put that aside, and you can, and you're what you do is truly altruistic and wanting to help them, then it's easy to put that aside and really help them out. And it's amazing the comparative stories. We've had people. We have one who's come on as a donor who had done, I think, well over 100 of these small business loans in Africa and had zero success. He heard about our program, and we had to go through a testing period. So he made a donation, and so we're donating his funds into these businesses, and he saw firsthand what we were doing, and he's now saying, okay, hey, I'm going to participate in the second one. As Nicci mentioned, we have actually 4, the original one, another one that just started. So we have 2 operating and 2 that are coming on board in early 2026. But it's because it's as much the how you introduce this, and are you elevating everybody? Are you giving them a reason to succeed? Are you motivating the right people and not just trying to make yourself feel good in what you're doing? And that's been all the difference.
I think one of the subtle improvements besides financially in these people's lives is the fact that you're changing generational thinking about success, about worthiness, perhaps, because I look to my father and I see his success. I see what he's done in business. And so I think, I could do that good or better. Maybe I might could. And so you're making a shift from these families growing up into a hopeless situation into maybe a hopeful situation. Mm-hmm. And so it's more realized than in your lifetime you're going to see. There's going to be changes down the road. People maybe more going to school or getting higher levels of education, bringing there and improving that culture, their communities. I just see no end to the good in this. There's usually a win-win or a win-lose even sometimes. This is like a win-win, win-win, win-win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps on going. I think that's just beautiful.
The ripple effect that we've seen is just amazing. The side stories that we've seen where we have a gal who had a beautician that would do hair, and all of a sudden she was selling the clothes from the gal who was making the clothes. And she was also selling the honey, and the gal that was, and so now all these people have a reason to interact. And
like
so
a co-op almost.
It is. And so all these businesses are now, and again, this is not culturally normal in a lot of these areas, is to do business with even people it's almost better to do people with you don't know. And when we started saying, well, you're having trouble with this distributor over here because he's not giving you the eggs that you need, why don't you use Bob over here that has eggs? Well, I don't know that he has the right eggs, and what about this, that? And then once we were able to pierce that trust, that's been amazing to understand that there's not a natural trust that exists. I think sometimes in the States, there's a natural trust.
Yeah, too local.
How could marketplace ever exist? And now you got to be careful, but there has to be a natural trust, and that's new in most communities. And so to pierce that and to make these introductions and to hold each party accountable has been a huge change. So it's just not giving a loan to this person and see what happens. It's really bringing everybody together and doing it smartly to where their chance of success is just through the ceiling.
This is a fascinating one to me, because what you're talking about, I read kind of a history lesson. The big difference of why Western culture took off and African culture didn't was the idea of a contract.
Yeah.
You're actually, because like building a ship, right? Yeah. Well, you're saying in Africa that if it's not my brother that's the one that's building the ship, I can't do business with him. Where in the Western world, that's the shipbuilder. I want to build a ship. Here's a contract that says, and we use that in so many different ways across our culture today. You're absolutely sign. Everything has a contract of how stuff is done. You're changing generational culture. You're introducing an economy to this whole thing. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. John mentioned marketplace. I love selling things on Facebook Marketplace, but I'm that seller that says I'll put it on my porch and just do cash under the mat or Venmo, right? They have M-Pesa. In their culture, they would be holding on to their product with one hand as they're giving the money with the other hand, like who's
On
going to
three,
let go
Yeah.
first, right?
Oh, wow.
Because there is no trust at all. No trust. You can't do like we do here in the States. So
Yeah, piercing the trust issue. And again, I've been involved with thousands of conversations with NGOs, not only local, but across the world. I've never heard that topic brought up before. And yet it's one of the most important topics if you want to understand the real economics. This is a little bit of a side note, but it works the same way. There is a group that was doing school loans. So we're gonna give you an education loan. Go get an education, and it was like 90% of the people who took advantage of that loan became accountants. It was just, I'm smart. I did well in school, so I qualified for this loan. I'm going to be an accountant. Without thinking that in this culture, a lot of the businesses, most of the businesses, were not owned by Africans, but were owned by people that came from the Indian nation, from India, and they would only hire from within.
Mm-hmm.
They would never hire an outside person to come in and be an accountant in their business.
Right.
Well, no one thought of that. So all of a sudden, this organization had several hundred students who paid for an education to become accountants, and none of them can find a job other than maybe being a teller, which is a very, very low-paying position. And so understanding just that makes a huge difference in how you do things. Understanding what are the unintended consequences of our action. Now, the unintended consequences of this company this group giving loans was that these people had to pay back those loans because they were loans, they weren't grants or gifts, and yet they didn't have a job to give back to, and so now they become delinquent at their bank. And we think that I think a bad check was at $19 or $21. Well, it would be $19 USD, which is about 400 shillings, and a lot of times the penalty for overdrawing your account was more than you ever even had in the account.
Yeah.
And so again, that burden just keeps on rolling. So you have to be really, really cognizant of what are the potential negative ramifications of what we're doing. You have to think beyond just that, we're just going to give.
Well, then what would you say is your key in success is finding, or because everything, there's a theme happening here, guys. There's the theme, and the theme is simply you cannot approach a problem in your knowing. Our knowing is different than their knowing. Our culture, our beliefs are just the things that we take so simply for granted. Just that trust that we'd have with one another, that you leave the money under the mat. These are inarguable concepts. It's outside my thinking to believe that people think another way, right? What is your success, or why do you feel like you were successful in determining these cultural norms or beliefs and then being able to leverage those? Like, how are you coming up with this information?
A lot of it is just my natural curiosity in asking why. I just, why won't this work? Why? And as poor as I am as a listener, Nicci will attest to this. I am a terrible listener, but I'm very, very curious. I'm extremely curious, and I want to know the whys. And so we end up asking a lot of questions. Now, the reality is I was lied to by almost everybody I asked for years and years, and because they want to tell you what they think you want to hear. And so it took a lot of work and understanding what is the truth and what isn't the truth, and phrasing the question in such a way that you actually get to the truth. Things like, if you were to do this with your money, how would you do it? If somebody didn't, pay, how would you do it? And it's like, well, we would never do it in the first place, It's like, okay, well, if you were, so a lot of it is just ask and observing and looking at programs. I've looked at, I think, the majority of programs that are out there, whether it be a food distribution program, a banking program, a lending program, a water program, and asking the question, either why has it not succeeded to the level that it should have, or what made it, what could have made it better, and just that natural curiosity, and it drives my wife crazy because I'll come up with a lot of things.
It does, and I remember John asked an organization of almost 40 years. Their whole mission is to elevate communities from poverty, and he asked them, "Well, how many communities have you elevated from poverty?" None.
And then the follow up on that is
but I don't think their donors know that. But
so
they have
doing?
no case. They'll build a school, but then they'll leave and the school will go defunct. There's no money for teachers or other things, or
it's just a building.
They'll build a toilet, or they'll do something, and you feel good. You go on the trips, and you'll build something. You'll feel good about it, but then you leave. And the community doesn't own it, and they won't take care of it, and they have no way to sustain it because they don't have any business. And so it was a very interesting conversation, very interesting, eye-opening.
A fun follow-up to that was, my second question was, well, what are you teaching them as a community? Well, we teach them, how to be self-sustaining, how to get off the dole, how not to survive on other people's donations, and et cetera. I was like, wow, that's really altruistic. And I said, well, how do you guys get your funding? How do you get your money? Government grants, donations, and we just chuckled. Yeah, they're totally on the dole, and we just chuckled about that they're teaching people how to get off the dole, and yet that is their business model,
right?
And so no, it's a fine line, and in our situation, we don't survive unless we have other people that are participating in what we're doing. But it's a different attitude. The attitude is, we call it live with purpose. It is, I'm doing something to help and improve these lives. And then our mission is to really be very, very specific with those funds and where they go and how it works. There was a long time where I could not figure out how to give a loan to an African individual or organization because of fear that I just couldn't live with myself if they made payments on this drill and they failed. And so it took a long time to kind of figure out how to do that and have it at least very, very reasonable that they're going, if they just work hard and be smart, they're going to make money. And so that's how we approach a lot of what we do. Is we're also very, very careful what we do, and we want to implement things that can be proven are successful. And now, as Nicci mentioned, I think earlier in the podcast, is that we have lots of teams out there that we have given loans to an individual or a group of local people who didn't have two nickels rubbed together. And now the Subi group out of Uganda, they have bought cars and houses on the profits that they've made, and they charge the lowest amount per well as any of our other groups. But they are so good at what they do, and they work so hard, and that they have just succeeded. They now, I think they have 3 village drills that are working. And again, we don't give them we don't give them anything anymore. We'll forward the money, but that money gets used and gets paid back and used for another another opportunity down the road. And it's just and again, we have dozens of those similar examples of the way it's supposed to work. And again, we can go away. We learned this during COVID. We can go away, and it still operates, which was really kind of well.
In 2020, John and I couldn't travel. You can understand why, but our teams thrived. They thrived, and actually, they hardly had very few cases of COVID.
And I was so sad that they could survive without me.
That was so.
I thought it was so important to the.
It was so eye-opening for us that we could go away and the teams would still thrive, because
Amazing.
they're getting their own jobs on the side as well, besides the community-funded program, and because we want them to be profitable and they want to be profitable. So, and that's what we encourage. We encourage everybody to be profitable, have a better life. Don't live day by day, and have that ripple effect for future generations.
Something amazing about this is I think about my nonprofit, and I'm not trying to bring it in.
Of course. No, bring it in.
But my nonprofit, should I go away, no more nonprofit. There's some great people that are associated with it, but I still am, or I have maybe the belief that I'm necessary. And I envy your position, because your position is really a legacy position. You can't do this forever. And I know you're going to do it as long as you can, and that you feel good about it and you're having a good time and feeling successful. But at the same time, there's going to be a point where either you need to hand it off to somebody else who is just as passionate as you are, or you're not a part of it. And that, what you're talking about, is a legacy position. I wished to anything I could figure out how to create that. I think that is the most beautiful thing that we've talked about.
Rob, I can never even get on your list to volunteer for Thanksgiving Heroes. You are so well supported. I try and try and try, and you're always full.
Well, I know a guy. Let me take care of that for you.
I would love to volunteer.
Yeah.
And I'll give you two of my impressions with that. One is, our mission is to end whatever's causing the need for whatever we're doing. Everybody can't have that position. We still need to take care of the people who are in the position today. We need to take care of those people. And that's what you do. You take care of the people that are in that position. And there's other organizations, or I hope, that are trying to get them out of that position. So next year, the year after, they can be volunteering instead of having to accept.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, what you're doing, and this cannot be overstated, is the people that volunteer, the people that you meet, you are their godsend. You are their purpose. And you can't look at this as, well, am I doing everything right? You are, because there is these hundreds and hundreds of people, probably maybe 1,000 now. You had like 5 or 6 locations going on, more than that.
You're all over the place.
And those people, they get their survival instincts and their legacy from that organization. Mm-hmm. So it's you probably, I don't know. We haven't talked about this. My guess is you have not highly considered the joy that you bring to the volunteers above and beyond, the help that you give the individuals. So it's just different.
It is just different, and it is not comparable. I do feel what you're saying to be true. Last year, I shifted my focus from those who are receiving the food, because honestly, I probably see maybe 6 of those families personally, but I see all 900 cars come through, and those are the people who I'm serving.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting perspective. I'm honestly not trying to bring it in to talk about Thanksgiving Heroes. Every opportunity out there has a tremendous blessing and unintended consequences, and good consequences and bad. All of them are amazing. The thing that I love about your story, and the reason that you're here today, because there's a lot of nonprofits that ask to come on, and I'm not interested in having them come on, because they're not. Your mission is so multifaceted, and it is so amazing to me that you have overcome not just an economic problem or a water problem. You're overcoming a thought problem.
Yeah,
I think that is the most fascinating part about what you guys do, and that's the real legacy. Water, of course, that's important. But the person that's starting the 3rd, 4th, and 5th business, and now his children are seeing him be successful, and they are now identifying as successful people, and I can be successful because dad was successful or mom was successful. That's the ripple effect. That is the legacy. That's the superpower of what you guys are trying to accomplish. And so everything said and done, my belief in what you guys are accomplishing is so far down. It's such a long pipeline that you will never realize the wonderful, maybe I won't either, the wonderful things that we've all accomplished in sticking to something and becoming unreasonable.
Yeah.
Because what you guys are doing, completely unreasonable.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I just want to be the first to say how much I admire your unreasonability and how ridiculous it is, because it is so wonderful. So thank you for sharing that mission. If you could look into the future now, because this is a relatively new program, this economic
Business mentorship.
the business mentorship, which is
Mhm.
brilliant. If you could look into that, where do you see this going?
Well, in two directions. One, on the macro, is the fact that this little organization, based out of my basement in South Jordan, Utah, has created the system with a credit union, with a SACO, and that within 1 year it's done once it's done, and we have one more open, one more due to open, two more that are going to open. We want somebody with means to look at this and say, why don't we introduce this everywhere? And really, because I love our sponsor, Blue Logic, because what we do is logic. What we do is we look at the situation and say, how can we logically fix this? Not fix it to make us feel good, not fix it for for a short time, but to really get them above and beyond where they're at. And it just it's like a lot of skills. It's amazing. You take basketball. Someone who's never played basketball, once they master dribbling, then they master the head shake, and they master the pass, and they master the layup, and they master the shots. But if you can't dribble, you can't do any of those other things.
Sure.
Right. And so what we're trying to do is get that first step, that I can be have an economic contribution to this world, and I can do it in a way that not only doesn't hurt anybody else, but it benefits everybody else. And it is duplicatable and predictable. The definition of a business, I learned this, 40 years ago. The definition of a business is it duplicatable? Can you do it over and over again? And is it sustainable? And if you can do that, so that's what this does. It just gets them to where then they can really take off. And again, just like the hiring criteria that this man implemented by hiring this gal, we had nothing to do with that gal being hired, other than the fact that had we not brought him on the B business, he would never have been in position to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm still not convinced it was the B business. It might have been a different business, but the story remains the same. He started with a business, and what he has done since then is really what we want to duplicate, because that changes a community, and then changes a city, county, state, and then hopefully the country,
the world.
Yes, the world.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Though, if I can throw one more 2 cents on this.
Yeah.
Nope.
No. Cut it off.
3 cents. 3 cents.
Go ahead, Topher.
What I think is really cool is, okay, so it's not just the culture of what you're doing, but like, say, somebody here that wants to donate. What you're doing is actually empowering. You actually touched on something that there's NGOs and whatnot out there. They're dumping all kinds of money. They're building buildings that 2 years down the road, they're not using. They're decaying and falling away. To know that this is the program and what you're doing to make a donation towards this, I can't think of something better. You're actually doing things to change the world. And I want to commend you. That, outside of the big fella himself here, you always, with all the nonprofits and whatnot that are out there, there's a glimmer of like, is this, like the one on the when you pay at any grocery store or whatever, do you donate? Where does that money actually go? Yeah. Nobody actually knows.
Yeah.
NGOs almost become a bad word in the past year or two.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I talk about what's happening here with Who Lives, it's exceptional. Mm-hmm. And that's the message I really want to get across to our listeners, is this is an exceptional opportunity to make a difference, because there's a lot of places where you can throw your time and resources, but you should pick one that has done the research and that is doing the things that are sustainable and duplicatable, a solid business model. So I appreciate the message. I really do. That's a great point. I love that. Well, I feel as though we've covered a lot of information here. Is there anything else that's important to know about this model that our listeners should know?
I'm going to give you, if we have time, 3 more minutes. It's a little bit of a longer story, but it encapsulates what we're trying to do is right, and sometimes there's what we do is wrong. We stumbled across a school that was being supported by a nonprofit from a different country, completely different country, and so they were giving the school all the money they needed to pay for the tuition, the books, the play equipment, basically everything for this school to survive and grow, and it became a very prominent school in this location. The problem became that they lost their funding. That company, I think it was a Dutch company, went away. So now this school has all these kids who were promised free tuition and all these nice things, but the money was gone. The family that was running the school had about 4 other businesses that they were operating, and they were taking every penny from those businesses to support the school. And they could not figure out, well, let's put it this way. When we ran into them, their burn rate, they probably had 2 to 3 months. And not only would the school be defunct, but all their other 4 businesses would be completely out of business. And we stumbled across them because of water. They needed a well. And we started looking at their situation. We became good friends. And again, this is where Mike Anderson really came in and studied the issue with the school. And the first thing that Mike told them was, you have to, anybody who's not paying their school fees now, they're gone. And the resistance to that was unbelievable. We can't do that. It's like, if you don't do that, then you're out of business anyways.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And so they did. They put out note, and this took a year, but they finally got rid of anybody who was not willing or could not pay some tuition. And they brought on new students that could pay the tuition. They got a well, and they started selling not only the water to the community, but they had this beautiful garden area, probably not even a half acre, but that thing produced more fruits and vegetables than I can imagine, way more than they can use, and they started selling that. And then they had a clothing store or a manor where they would make dresses and such.
A sewing
center. And so all of a sudden, all the businesses were focusing back on the school, and they got rid of all the teachers, because it was actually the teachers who were responsible for collecting the funds, which I didn't know about this, but the teachers were responsible for collecting the funds from the parents. So they got rid of all the teachers who also had been on the dole, brought in all brand new teachers. And this was hard. But they did it. And again, it was Mike. Mike never, I probably have a little bit of a temper sometimes and lack of patience. Mike doesn't. But I've seen him in front of these people and just say, and he's like, listen, I'm telling you, if you don't do this, you're out of business anyways. You're going broke. You have to do this. And finally they would. They would listen to him, and they would. And I'm telling you a story because this school, within 1 year, maybe a year and a half, has gone from they were going bankrupt, the family was going bankrupt, to all 4 of his businesses. The main brother who was in charge of all the businesses put his brothers in charge of the other 4 businesses, and you're responsible for the profit and loss. And Mike, even though he didn't have any financial anything to do with those 4 other businesses, he talked to all those brothers every single week, not every single month or every quarter, every week. How are you doing? Why aren't you doing this? What's your next plan? And he got all those businesses excelling. He got the school to where it's now making money. I went there not really knowing all the things that Mike had done. And when I found out, it led me to tears. I don't get emotional very often, probably more than I did when I was younger. But it was amazing when I saw these new kids and the new teachers and this new attitude. And at that point, when I visited, they only had 40, I think less than 40 students, and they need like 80 to break even. Well, now I think there's up to 120.
Wow.
And they're totally sustainable. And but again, that's our legacy of anything else. And that just encapsulates where the money needs to go, why it needs to go, and why you just don't, again, we hate to keep on harping on this, but why you just don't give it away, because they were taught that they had to be dependent on this other group. We came in and taught them, no, you don't. You have the skills, the ability, the tenacity to do this on your own. And by gosh, they've done it. And they are a beacon to the world. We've taken that example, and we're also pushing that out to other schools that are having difficulty. They include the garden towers that 100 Humanitarians introduced to us. We'll give them a great shout out. Wonderful, wonderful organization. But they grow on a quarter acre, probably 3 or 4 acres worth of food because of these garden towers. Anyways, a lot of good relationships, but that's the difference. That's the difference to make a private school become a public school and survive. I don't know that it's ever been done before, at least not to this success.
Yeah.
But that just shows why we do what we do and how we help. And when you do give us the funds, we're very specific on where it goes, and our goal is to multiply that and make it sustainable. So, and my last point is, sometimes when you give a donation, like I say, you donate to a museum, that's fantastic, but you get a piece of carpet that someday will be removed and replaced. At Who Lives, our goal is that when you give Who Lives $5, that $5 continues to grow and grow and grow and grow and bless. And so that's that duplication philosophy that we have is our desire is to, number one, end whatever's happening, but do it in a way that's sustainable. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. Something that I appreciate about your organization is the fact that I get an email regularly that says, this is what's happening. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. Nicci, good job. And the thing that I like about that is in that information is, what's my money doing? A lot of times donations are thrown into the bottomless pit of, we're improving the world, and there is no accountability. There's no reporting back. And so this is an organization where you can actually see traction happening regularly. You're getting an update all the time on what's happening in your organization. And I think that is spectacular. I really appreciate that about what you guys are up to. If I wanted to get involved with Who Lives, what would be the easiest way for me to plug into your organization?
You can find us on all social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter. We're on TikTok even.
Ooh,
YouTube.
you guys are high end.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very
If you
useful.
go to our TikTok, you'll actually see a very disturbing video that has like 70,000 views of one of our impact mission gals. She was trying to cut the head off a chicken with a very dull knife.
Oh no.
Yes, that's a thing. So
What goes viral just makes no sense to anybody.
find us on social media. Go to wholives, WHOLIVES.org. Our website, we update that frequently. Join us on an impact mission. Come, bring your children, especially teenagers that are struggling. It helps their perspective to go into a developing country and see extreme poverty, connect with the human spirit, exactly what John was saying. Come into the homes of these humble, beautiful people that are so proud of their family, and it will touch your heart forever. As it's touched mine. I only go once a year because honestly, I give it 110% and I come back exhausted. But come on with us, see in a safari, see an elephant right next to you, watch, lions. I had 2 lions come right in front of my vehicle, 2 lion brothers. Last time I went, and you can take a hot air balloon safari over the Masai Mara. It will just blow your mind. So follow us, subscribe to our newsletter, come to our gala. We have a gala once a year. This year it's on September 16th in West Jordan at the Viridian Center. Our gala is amazing.
It's amazing.
We totally tell you every single thing you're doing. You're after 2.5 hours, you're like, oh my gosh, we need to go home now. But it's a fun, fantastic event. And
great people, great networking. I met some really great humans there. Their raffle items were nice, some good stuff going on. And more than anything at all is just like watching, it's watching good people show up, watching people get activated and involved. And I really do believe that the quality of my life is enhanced, or I find fulfillment in the service that I do. And if you want to align with a service-oriented community, this is the one. This is a great space to be in. So be a part of this, show up, follow these guys, and support them. We have another podcast that's coming up. John, you were jumping in like you had something to say, but go ahead.
If you're okay, I wanted to put, actually, I want to put 2 shout outs. I apologize. This is the ADHD coming out. One, I want to tell you, you mentioned our emails and our social media, and that's handled, by Nicci. We have 3 people that are running this organization here in Utah. We don't have 30 or 300 or 3,000 like some other organizations. We have 3. And the quality of work that she does in distributing our message is as good as I've ever seen from any other, $100 million organization. And that wasn't always the case. She has
John.
learned.
Let's wrap up.
Just stop
Time
right
to wrap
there.
up.
But she has taken us to a new level, and I appreciate that. The next shout out is, I am always amazed at the individuals and the businesses that support us, and it really almost befuddles me. And we'll get a check, and we're like, "Really? Are you sure that this?" And they'll tell us, "John, you have no idea the pleasure that this brings us, because we know what you're about. We've been on the trips. We've seen what it does." But I'm still, even after 15 years, amazed and appreciative of the companies that will take our message and share it with their employees and do employee matching and bring them into the fold, and even individuals that have retired. And we got a check last year, and it was just astounding. I mean, well, I won't tell you who it was. I'll tell you it was 25,000, but it was, it was a sacrifice. I know it was a sacrifice that I don't know that I would have even had the guts to do. So we appreciate those people that are making those sacrifices, and they're creating their own legacy with their grandchildren and their children. They're teaching them some amazing lessons. And so a real shout out, because they are part of the team. They're not just an income source. We hope and that they get as much out of it as we are, and they seem to be. So thank you to all those supporters. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Thank you. Get involved, get ignited. Don't be casual about your imprint that you're leaving here on the earth. Show up and be a part of a good organization like this one. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, this is a multi-part series. We'll catch you for the round out on the next one.